Jeffrey usually had breakfast with people at 7. He said, well, Carlos, I think you are doing great. And now that you decided to go back to Spain after El Dorado and Prince of Egypt, I think it's time for you to go. But you know that we've been working on this movie for at least half a year, Spirit. Lorna wants your take on the designs. I said, Jeffrey, I cannot draw horses. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm coming from having fun on El Dorado, and I don't mind to work on any other movie that you can give me. And he said right away, he said, listen, Carlos, this time you cannot really select. Sometimes they gave me 2 scripts, Shrek, which I said no, The Road to El Dorado, which I said yes. So DreamWorks had lots of projects to work at that. Jeffrey said, there is the door.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Kingdom of Dreams podcast, The Making of Stories. I'm your host, Jawad Mir. Today, my guest is Carlos Grangel. I've had the pleasure of having him on this podcast a few times, once to talk about Corpse's Bride, but today he's here to talk about one of my personal favorite films, Spirit, Stallion of Cimarron. For this particular film, I have spoken to director Lorna Cook. About a year and a half, 2 years ago, I've spoken to Simon Wells, who had several times on this podcast, who storyboarded one of the scenes. And Carlos is here to talk about Spirit, the character designing, and all that fun stuff with some incredible stories with Jeffrey Katzenberg, Lorna Cook, and a whole bunch of cool things. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Carlos for Spirit, Stallion of Cimarron. But let's talk about Spirit, Stallion of Cimarron. I had spoken to Lorna Cook, who co-directed the film.
So sweet.
And she's a great friend now. Anytime I go to LA, we get together. You know, one of my favorite animated films, along with Lion King, in terms of traditional animation. So tell me about how you got involved on the film. I know you had been working on DreamWorks and stuff projects, but just the story behind that and wherever you want to take it from there, and then we can talk about different scenes that you worked on.
Mm-hmm. Very good. It's great that you mentioned Lorna, because Lorna has a huge role on me coming into Spirit. You know, I obviously, let me say one thing: Spirit and the Prince of Egypt has been the 2 most difficult films for me to work on, and in my life. So first of all, both they were dramas. So they needed that touch of realism, stylized realism. Stylized realism is that narrow line that it's not caricature, it's not a fun movie, it's not a comedy. We couldn't do Corpse's Bride on Madagascar style. You know what I'm saying? So,
right, of course.
And Lorna, first of all, was storyboarding many of these scenes, and she drew beautifully, you know, on Prince of Egypt storyboarding, and on Spirit too. That was going to be her movie with Kelly Asbury, which passed 3, 4, 5 years ago, the second director on board. So here is the deal. I was finishing on El Dorado, working with my friend Nicola Marley and Tony Ciruno, the 3 designers that we were working on the road to El Dorado. And one day I got a call from Jeffrey's office, Jeffrey Katzenberg. And he said, Jeffrey, want to have breakfast with you 7:30 in the morning tomorrow. Jeffrey usually had breakfast with people at 7, 6:30, 7:30. So 7:30 was late for him anyway. So we met at the campus and we had breakfast. And he said, well, Carlos, I think you are doing great. And now that you decided to go back to Spain after El Dorado and Prince of Egypt, I think it's time for you to go. But I need you to work on a movie. And I said, wow, it's great. I can take movies to Spain. So he said, yeah, but you need to be half of the year here. So that was the deal. Anyway, long story short, he said, you know that we've been working on this movie for at least half a year, Spirit, about horses. And I said, yeah, I know. And my friend Carter Goodrich, an amazing illustrator and character designer who worked with me on The Prince of Egypt, did beautiful stuff with other people. And he said, yeah, but Lorna Lorna is going to direct it, and I think we want to give Lorna wants your take on the designs. I said, Jeffrey, I cannot draw horses. I'm sorry. I mean, I'm coming from having fun on El Dorado, and I don't mind to work on any other movie that you can give me. And he said right away, he said, listen, Carlos, this time you cannot really select. Sometimes they gave me two scripts, Shrek, which I said no, The Road to El Dorado, which I said yes. So DreamWorks had lots of projects to work at that time. And Jeffrey said, there is the door, spirit or a spirit, spirit or a spirit. There is the door. You can go back to Spain, have a nice life, your siesta, sangrias, enjoy the beach and paella. He said right away, he said, Jeffrey, I'm sorry, you said that you were going to give me another possibility. He said, no, we want you to work on spirit. He said, this is my story. He said, I asked script writer John Fusco to write a story about the Americana seen under the eyes of a wild horse. That's my movie, Carlos. Do you understand what I'm asking you? And I said, okay. I said, let me call my brother, which is my partner, and I get you back tomorrow. He said, tomorrow at 9 is late. You call me before 9 a.m. So he gave me 24 hours, 23 hours because it was early. Anyway, I called my brother and he said, listen, guy, after doing the Prince of Egypt, it shouldn't be any harder than that. And I said, yes, 85% of the script, it's scenes with horses, and horses are so beautiful animals, so perfect, nature designed them, and my brother always has a nice take. He said, yeah, but those aren't the horses that the conquistadors left there. So they are coming from the Andalusian horse down there in Spain, which they are coming from the Arab horses from north of Africa. And I say, what do you mean, Jordi? I say, well, somehow are related to us, So these horses, they're running wild since the conquistadors lost some battles in South America. Those are the genes are horses that they came from Europe, and obviously even before from Arabic Peninsula or Africa, So I said, okay. I said, Jordi, what do you mean? Jordi said, if you're coming back and not living more in LA, we need a job, So get that damn script and get it back to over here and let's start working on those horses, So the day after, I called Jeffrey at his office and talked with her assistant and said at 7:00, and I said, we're going to do it. So and right away that day, which I was in LA still living and working, and in El Dorado, I met with Lorna Cook, and she's the sweetest director I ever worked with, Lorna, and she drew spectacular horses. She loves horses.
Yeah.
I believe she had horses.
She still does.
Horses.
She still does. Yeah.
So I said, Lorna, you are going to help me with this because I'm coming from a cartoony film, Tulio and Miguel, The Road to El Dorado, I like more caricature. I said, you will. I trust you so much, Carlos. And she said something, you do appealing drawings. And we need something very appealing because they're not going to talk. The horses are not going to talk. And this is going to be through their movements, expressions, and all that. So I started early 1999, and I remember a meeting when, after so much struggle, 3 months trying to draw horses myself in my room, 12 hours a day, my right hand was painful because I just couldn't get the right thing that I wanted, Obviously, with the help of Lorna and going every day to the equestrian center in Burbank, which they have horses, and sketching horses. So 3 months after, we got the first approval. We got Spirit approved, on a meeting with Lorna, Kelly, and Kelly Asbury, which he joined right away, 2 or 3 weeks after I joined, with Jeffrey and Mireille Soria, producer, and Max Howard too was at the beginning, the producer. But Mireille Soria was the one that stood during all the movie, and we got Spirit approved. And Jeffrey said, "Well, not that bad. After 3 months, we have a Spirit." And I said, "Not that bad, Jeffrey. On El Dorado, you were approving characters every week. It took us 3 months to get the main hero, you know?" He said, "Yeah, but you see, good things takes time." And that was the roughest meeting I had with Katzenberg and directors on board, because I said, Jeffrey didn't like that, what I said. And it's true, but I say it from the bottom of my heart. I said, do you want to do this movie in 2 years and a half? It's going to take you 3.5. Do you know how much are going to suffer those animators, you know, and the entire cast of artists, you know, doing these horses? And he said, what do you mean? And I said, I mean that it's so painful. It's just so painful. I've been every day going and doing live drawing 2-3 hours a day, coming back to my desk here at the campus in Glendale at DreamWorks Animation, sleeping 5-6 hours. Well, like me, he said, okay, but I'm an artist, I need to rest well. You know what I'm saying? He's a businessman. Anyway, long story short, I said, it's going to take forever. And he went crazy on me. And in fact, he called me to his office the day after, and he said, you don't say this in front of people because you scare the team. I believe you're a good leader, but you don't say this. You understand what I'm saying? And I said, well, I warned the team because I had the problems. I'm warning them, and I'm warning you in case you want to screen this movie 1 year earlier. And they took them 3 years and few months. So it was a painful movie to do. I remember supervising animator of Spirit, James Baxter, had so many problems too. And James can draw, you know what I'm saying? So everyone on Spirit was giving not the 100%, the 1000%, you know. That movie was a daily struggle with everyone, you know. We had animators coming from Shrek and The Road to El Dorado. Those were totally different movies, you know.
Yeah.
The level of draftsmanship. There is a sentence from Glenn Keane when they started working on Tarzan. He said, this movie is going to divide men from kids, you know. He meant it's going to be tough. So that sentence can be applied to a Spirit. It really make, like the Prince of Egypt, it really make people, I'm not saying that we were the best, the ones that stood on Spirit. I'm just saying that it was so hard, you know, Jawad. So, so it was a tremendous, difficult movie. We had so many great storyboarding people. Lorna, obviously, but she was directing most of the time, but doing some boards. But we had Jennifer Hugh, you know, director of Kung Fu Panda 2, I believe. We had Jürgen Gross. We had lots of people. At some point, probably Simon Wells sketched something for a story. We had so many good people on that show. And then we had great painters, Luc de Machelier, who actually was their director too. Bill Kaufman. We had all the great painters from the Prince of Egypt, you know, on the backgrounds. But the issue was to move, to animate, to design horses. That was the main issue. They shouldn't look like dogs. You know, they shouldn't look like, they had to move perfectly.
Yeah. And they did, because so one of the things I didn't mention earlier, along with Spirit and Lion King, Prince of Egypt is one of my favorite films too. Like I've seen that movie so many times, and I remember specifically Spirit when the first teaser came out. They actually used the teaser as the opening of the film, like the first, you know,
the prologue.
And and they had Robert Redford narrated. Like,
It's true.
Yeah, and he just passed away yesterday.
Yeah,
And then obviously the film was with Matt Damon, but the movement of the horses in that film, when I saw it, because I have ridden horses too growing up, it was just so incredible with the breathtaking visuals and the 3D camera movement,
mhm.
especially when the horses come on the hill and then the
Yeah,
camera goes sideways and then it goes up. Like you had not seen anything like that in a 2D animated film at the time.
no, no.
And you could see the horses in every angle, and that's a testament to all the work that everybody did, right?
Mhm.
And it paid off. Maybe not box office wise, but I think it's one of the most amazing films ever made. Like, and not just animated films. It's just to have not see animals talk in an animated film. Yes,
Mhm.
that may have caused the film box office to go down south, but that was such a bold move, and it worked throughout the film.
Yeah. You know that film when was screened in Cannes at the festival 2002, 2002. He
Yeah,
had 1 hour people clapping
I'm not surprised.
in
It was
France.
an,
They
it was
were they
an,
were not expecting anything like that. I think that's it's true from day one that that was a film that Jeffrey wanted to do, like the Prince of Egypt, Jeffrey and Steven, Spielberg, and
Mhm.
but Spirit was more Jeffrey Katzenberg idea alone, and it wasn't a blockbuster on the box office, and we know, but it was an amazing movie that many people nowadays still remembers, and they said, "Hey, Carlos, do you can you draw a spirit for me, or can you?" And it's one of the. I have three movies on my mind: Prince of Egypt, and Spirit, and Corpse Bride, and lately Pinocchio from Guillermo del Toro. That they are three outstanding movies of my career, of my lifetime, and yeah, one of them is Spirit, by the difficulties and by how beautiful it turned out. And I remember that first teaser with the horses coming down a hill and then showing up,
Yeah.
tremendously beautiful, and Spirit running and moving his neck and mane, and even getting more speed, that it's every one of the animators at that time that stood on Spirit, and it's true that they were somehow tortured because Lorna knew exactly where the Lorna, which is a tremendous animator too, you know, knew exactly where the mistakes were and how to put things in place, on place, and knew where muscles were, and legs and manes and tails. So she was checking every rough animation, and in a very sweet way, telling you, look at there is something there, or look at your design here. It can be. She always will say, "Forgive me if I am wrong, but do you have a piece of paper and a tracing paper and draw on top of my drawing?" And her drawing was so beautiful. I still hold some of her
Oh,
work,
that's nice.
and I'm not really brown nosing her. She really helped me out to go through the movie. We had some ups and downs because it's not a secret, but I can tell you now. James Baxter
Sure.
wanted to do the designs on the Spirit. James. So at that time, the animators from Disney and even before, like Milcol or Mar Davis, used to do their own designs. So James arrived in the middle of Prince of Egypt and stood on El Dorado, but still he wanted to do the designs on the Spirit, and obviously he did Rafiki on Lion King and blah blah blah, Belle in Beauty and the Beast, and many characters at Disney. But at DreamWorks, the designers designs and the animators animates. You know what I'm saying? There is a status that that they brought these amazing designers from East Coast like Goodrich or Peter de Sèvres, and then Nicolas Marlet from France, myself from Spain, DreamWorks wanted guys who could design, who knew about animation, some of them too. Like I did my animation training of 3 years, and Nico was an animator in France, coming out from Gobelin's school in Paris. Anyway, long story short, we had a tremendous battle with James, presenting his designs to Lorna, and Lorna holding and saying, "Hey, we know what we want." And these are beautiful, James, but are too caricature. This is the horse of Milk Holland and Sleeping Beauty. So we need something real, and our designers are working hard. I remember I was there, kind of leading 3, 4 great designers and great animators too, like Prez Romanillos, Tony Ciruno designing, Patrick Mate designing to Pierre-Olivier Vincent, who is an art director or production designer he did many movies at DreamWorks. Anyway, we were doing a very strong team on design. And finally, James understood that working it was a team effort of design. It wasn't a solo, thing. If you want to be the Beatles, you need Lennon and McCartney, but you need Ringo and the other guy. And anyway, he understood, and finally he was okay animating whatever was coming approved from design department. But this is one of the secrets I hold on me. But now I think we can talk about it.
Yeah. And it's nothing bad. I mean, it's just these things happen at any production, right? Like, and later in life, you realize that okay, maybe that was this and this was that. But, I'll get to the scenes in a bit, but I'll just want to mention something. And Lorna told me this a few times, maybe last year when I was with her. We were talking about Spirit and DreamWorks, and she mentioned, and we're talking about how films change people's lives, right? There was this one person who came up to her and said 20 years later that I was on the verge of suicide, and Spirit took me away from that thought.
Oh, wow.
Stuff like that. Like, I'm sure there's so many other stories. I mean, there's another story on Prince of Egypt, which you worked on since you worked. I don't know if I told you, so please tell me if I told you. This woman came with her kids after the screening to Brenda Chapman, or no, to
Simon Wells.
No, not Simon Wells. Steve
Hickner. Steve Hickner.
Yeah. After again 20 years, she came with her kids. She goes, when Prince of Egypt came out, a day before, my husband abused me physically, and I took my kids to go see Prince of Egypt. And when I walked out of the theater, I made a decision that we're not going back, and that changed the entire trajectory of their life, and they never went back.
Wow.
It's just amazing. What does Prince of Egypt and Spirit have to do with suicide and
Well, it's a story of
I know
yeah,
triumph and all that, right? Like there's all those messages that inspires you.
redemption.
Yeah, and the theme of the film is like it's horses and it's like a messenger. I'm just saying it's like these films have such an impact, and it's because you were involved in it. I thought I should tell you that it do change.
No, I had no idea, but
Yeah.
it's an incredible story. I know that 85% the people that loves Spirit and comes to me or they write me, "Can you send me a sketch of Spirit?" are women. I don't know why. Women, they love horses naturally, but yeah, and I know many people loves the first one, not the sequel that they did much later. They asked me why they did that. I said, I don't know. I don't work on sequels. Not even on the ones that I work on the original story. So anyway, it's a very powerful story. And listen, there were even more powerful stories inside that they took out because they were too strong. For example, there was that rail. They were going on the train and people shooting buffaloes with the Winchesters, from the windows of the train just for fun. That historically happened. So they took out some things that they were really bad about the history of America, or the history of the conquest of the West, So it was really, really even more powerful. I don't think it was Lorna, it was more a studio. The studio
Mm.
realized that it was a kind of very dramatic movie with the same impact or superior that the Prince of Egypt, because what happened on the Prince of Egypt, it happened on the Middle East, but what happened on the Spirit, it was America. You know what I'm saying? And many
Mm.
Americans, they were not ready for that. So it was kind of massive killing with Native Americans, with the tribes, massive killings of buffalo and other species, the conquest just for the gold, you know, with the train going back to the west, and making it to all the train workers, Chinese workers that they were in the area of California up, it was a touchy film, So
Wow.
so they kept it. You know, one thing that I wanted to talk is the day that they approved that spirit, you know, and and with spirit on their hand, that was one of the sketches,
Oh, nice.
half sketch. But that is the color of him, correct? That is him, with
Yep,
the
yep.
hair. Anyway, I've been doing my research today on my archives. So Jeffrey Katzenberg asked for an assistant and said, I want this horse. I want just what we just approved. And it was a Kiger Mustang, beautiful, kind of dark orangey. We did it that way, basically because they exist, but because it's more distinctive on the herd, that orange, and against the grass of the beautiful backgrounds against the green, you can see the guy right away. Okay, so Katzenberg said, "I want that horse. Find it." To her assistant, and they found the horse in a ranch in Oregon. Obviously, his name was Donner, not Spirit. You know the story of Donner?
I think Lorna may have mentioned this to me, but go on, please, on
Yeah.
the podcast. Yeah.
So they got Donner, and obviously the owner didn't want to sell Donner. They arrived with this small airplane into the ranch in Oregon. I think Jeffrey went with Steven, just big ranks. They offered him so much money that they sold the horse, correct? So once they brought Donner to LA, to Glendale, they kind of built a little ranch inside the campus, okay, in Glendale,
Yes. Yes.
for animators and designers to draw him. And when he came, it was way beyond beautifully that the design. It was amazing, an amazing horse. Obviously, you will call him a Spirit, and he didn't even turn. Obviously,
Yeah, yeah,
name was
yeah.
Donner. Was kept for a year or two, not in the Glendale campus, was coming every day, but they had a better facility near the Castrian Center in Burbank, very close nearby. But it was coming for all the animators and designers to really design the horse. And after that, we could do beautiful things like that, With,
Wow.
but this is after having Donner in the campus. Then is when we knew, because we had a horse in front of us, a horse that was exactly like Spirit. Then from that day and all that year having Donner in the campus designing and drawing, all the animators, all of us, all the designers, anyone from storyboard, we went much faster and we knew a lot about horses because we could see the guy, there, you know. That is a beautiful story. Then when it happened that the movie was ending, it came a big dilemma at the studio what to do with Donner, which at the
Yeah.
time it responded by a Spirit was already 2 years and a half in the campus. So he knew he had two names, Donner his native name and spirit. So the executives, they wanted him to go to the premieres in New York and go up on the Empire Stage on the elevators and all that. The artists and directors, we wanted him a nice retirement in a ranch running wild, free, and we won the battle. So right now, Spirit, from that day that we donated Spirit to the ranch in Santa Barbara that is running free, if you check on the internet, Spirit, the Tiger Mustang is in a ranch and is still alive, in Santa Barbara in California.
Really?
Yeah. When we finish the interview, you go and check, and you could see him, and he's still beautiful. Obviously a bit older, but still alive up to this date. I checked it out last week, so
Well, I'm going to LA. I don't know if probably I'm gonna have time next week, but when I do come in October, I'm gonna make a trip to Santa Barbara because
you should
that,
go and see
yeah,
a Spirit.
that is so
If
cool. I
you
did
if
not
you
know it.
want, I never went and saw it. I didn't go. But if you are there those days, we can call and ask and try to find
Sure.
out at least for an hour. Santa Barbara is really close, a couple of
Yeah, yeah,
hours,
yeah, yeah.
you
Let's
know.
let's do that. Let's do that.
So we should go and see the guy.
I'll ask if you want. I can ask Lorna too if she wants to come because she'll probably
Oh,
love
it
it
will be
too.
amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm seeing her next week. Let me bring that up to her.
Ask
Maybe we
her.
should go.
Ask
Yeah,
her. She
yeah.
knows well that I'm pretty sure Lorna went and visited the Spirit a few times for sure.
I'm sure because she still has a horse that she takes care
See?
of, so she's really
Yeah.
into
So ask
into it.
her. Ask her.
I
Tell her
will. I
that I
will.
am coming in October and we can really go.
That'd be super cool, man.
That's a good
Um,
story.
yeah, no. When Spirit, with animation films, especially, I mean, also with live action, but animation, there's a lot of like storyboard test screenings within studio, but then there's also like screenings for audiences just to kind of see how they're reacting. Um, what was there? And you touched upon some of the sequences that were too dramatic, but was there anything after the test screening that dramatically changed some arc in the story or a scene that you can
I
remember?
DreamWorks and Disney and Pixar, obviously, all these big studios, they do screenings with people.
Yeah,
you know. And all the studio thought it was going to be a better success than what it was, somehow. Obviously, it wasn't a movie for all the families.
yeah.
No, it was just too painful for kids and underage people to go. I don't remember how it was rated PG 13th, or I don't remember.
I I
Um,
don't know. Let
I'm
me
not
just find
sure.
out.
But obviously, the entire studio was expecting more box office on the opening weekend and the rest. It was a kind of a disappointing for the entire.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So it was rated G, actually. I'm
Oh,
surprised.
yeah, I'm surprised too. That's why it had a bad, not a bad, it did not perform well with all the families going to the cinemas. It's
Yeah,
it's
and
kind of it's because obviously it's 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 a hard movie. It's a true drama in a way. It was worth it. I will work again,
yeah,
to that movie.
I
But
think
the studio didn't got the reports that they wanted on the previous testings. So that's why probably some scenes were cut out of, you know, the big fire, the mine sequence with the mine. We had a Persian horse called Audi that was took off the movie. That one.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So many things came and went. On all the movies happened, but in Spirit they were more often trying to slow down on the drama, you know, on the pain to all the horses that they were suffering, the drama. They were the horses from the cavalry that they were tainted and suffering the drama of of the army. Okay, then there were the wild horses captured by the wranglers, and the cowboys that they were making the money selling them to other people. The drama of the Indians, the tribes and their horses, the Appaloosas. Rain is an Appaloosa horse. Those horses they came from Asia and the steppe from when the Bering Strait was joining Alaska,
Mm.
thousands of years ago, before the horses from the conquistadors arrived. So it was too many things, too many touchy subjects. But
But
still, Mireille Story and Jeffrey Katzenberg believe it so much on the movie, and and the critiques were amazing in Europe, about how great and how challenging was that movie, and by the as you said, it's so difficult to show emotions without talking.
and I think that, well, one of the reasons it worked in Europe is because Europe is completely different in terms of art when it comes to, like, especially France. When you said
Yeah,
Cannes Film Fest, it's like a completely different audience. Like, they understand art way differently than they do here,
it's true.
in North America. Obviously, I think the talking part went against it, but if it was talking, it would have ruined the film, in my view,
Yes, yes, yeah, yeah.
right?
I believe the same.
And one thing that we don't talk about very much, and not many people, I mean, I think Spirit was designed beautifully, everything, the scenery, the music, everything. But the character of Rain and the colors, you showed me some of the sketches and it just reminded me, not many people talk about that. I think that really was like a kind of like a hidden gold in the film that
Mm.
really spoke to audiences in a very interesting way, in a subtle way. And maybe that's the reason that new series that they started, it was a computer animation one,
Hmm.
a
Yes,
Spirit Untamed or something. It's like with a girl and a female horse, right? So
yes,
I just want to mention that Rain, to me, really, really contributed to the film a lot, even though she comes in like halfway into the film.
yes. Rain actually, when we wanted, it was coming from storyboards, but Kelly Asbury and Lorna Cook, they really wanted to have a different sensibility, for
Mm,
the female horse and another type of breed of horse. So we went for the Appaloosa, the Indian horse. Obviously, Little Creek had that horse. It was
yeah.
coming from. So we could make the comparative on the design of a really subtle lines, more feminine, really whimsical shapes on Rain, and then speeding the stud, the stallion, and very muscle and kind of elegant, very elegant still Spirit, but kind of more the macho guy without, pretending to be the big stud ever. And it's true. I think Rain balanced the entire herd of horses.
She did. And even as a character in the film, like Spirit was, anytime you see Spirit, there's something going on with him, right? Unless he's with Rain, there's that sense of calmness,
Yeah, it's
right? And
true.
which is true and evident in our human lives too, right? Like, we come home, we want peace because everything else outside is chaotic. So that was really beautifully done, I thought. I mean, I never looked at it that point when I was watching it when it came out in 2002. But now, 23 years later, it's a completely different perception. I gotta see it again. I mean, I've seen that movie so many times. Every time I watch it, I find something new in it that I didn't pick up before. Maybe it's because when you grow every
Mhm.
year, your maturity level goes to another level. But yeah, it's an incredible film, man. Like, I can't tell you how much it had. Didn't have an impact on me like the story that I tell you, but it was just that perseverance and that
Mhm.
consistent. I think that character's perseverance is kind of something that maybe subconsciously is in me, because that's something that I do all the time. Is like, I just keep going and keep going. you have to get to the destination no matter what, right? And it happens in life in much longer than 90 minutes in a film. But yeah, I can go on, man. It's an incredible and beautiful film. And then Hans Zimmer music, oh my God, and Bryan Adams songs are just
Yeah,
phenomenal.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's music wise, it's incredible. Katzenberg had two or three people in mind, and then we couldn't. At some point at the very beginning, they mentioned Bruce Springsteen, but I don't know what happened. That finally was Bryan Adams and Hans Zimmer. I think he did some stuff. No, uh, now that you are talking about how quiet is or how whimsical and balanced Spirit on Spirit, I got actually a lot of people congratulating me for Rain too. Saying
Mm.
that she's beautiful and her forms are more roundy and think that we did kind of subliminal without thinking, you know. And then as we did subliminal, many people says, how can you do a horse that is so beautiful and good looking, And I said, well, I don't know. And he said, the face is such a good looking guy, it shows on a horse, and it's true. I went into the internet and there is this debate, that is a horse very interesting. I don't know. Probably there were something on the eyes, and his acting, obviously in the animation, but it was something on the eyes. We were working on these horses and then we had the problems that they were not going to be talking. So every time that they did something, they had to turn because, the horses, they have the eyes on the sides. Okay. This was talking to Lorna and we were talking to Lorna. Lorna said, okay, look at these sketches, Carlos, that you did over here. The eyes are closer together. Almost he's looking on the front. Let's go for this because it's connecting more to the audience, and we don't need the horse moving the head. And I said, I'm sorry, Lorna, I did it by mistake. Sometimes you put the eyes further, sometimes, an artist never does a drawing the same way, a sketch. And he said, yeah, but we're going to go with this because, and I said, yeah, it's looking more human. But he said, yeah, exactly. It's not going to be human, but it's going to be horse humanized, So that was something that it's there, and
It's it's interesting you mentioned the eyes, and as you're talking about the eyes in my head,
mhm.
literally all I see is the visualization of the eyes
Yes.
of spirit, right?
Mm.
I was talking to Simon Wells about a bunch of different things, and spirit came up. And I'll send you that episode. And he actually showed me, he did that scene where they try to like tie him down.
Yes, he worked on that one.
So he showed me the progression of storyboards on the podcast and how the eyes were in there too. And I mean, again, like we can talk about Spirit forever. I can, it's just,
Yeah,
it's a lovely film, man. And I'm so glad that you guys worked on it. At the time, things may not seem as great, but over time, people tend to
it's worth
appreciate
it. Yeah, yeah.
100%.
Very
Some
good,
film,
Jawad. It's
yeah.
it's always a pleasure,